All right, here we go. Another of our Meet Your Legislator session. We are joined by Representative Dan Vollmer today, who represents District 6, actually from Willow City, up there in the Botno, Rugby, where's District 6 actually, Dan?
Well, District 6 is quite a large geographic district. It starts here north of Bismarck by Mercer and goes all the way to the Canadian border. Encompasses Renville County, Botno County, McHenry County, part of McLean County. It's a huge district.
So you corner to corner when you're out there seeing your constituents. That's no easy thing to get around everybody, huh?
No, we have to travel quite a bit, down to Turtle Lake and up to Mulhall and Botno, Towner, of course, Granville, and a little bit of Ward County also, eastern part, east of Minot.
Talk a little bit about your decision to become a legislator. Obviously, you're in the business world and knew that well, but decided to bring your talents to the legislature. Just talk a little bit about that journey.
Well, I started out as kind of a reluctant candidate, but I was asked to run, and lo and behold, here I am. We had some competition in the primary, but we ran, my running mates and we ran unopposed in the general election. So, but I grew up in Willow City, North Dakota, on the farm, and left there, went to North Dakota State University. I ended up in the banking business for many years. We bought some banks around the state and so forth, and then sold them. But then I stayed on and with the Dakota Bank brand, and I managed our banks in North Dakota and some in South Dakota as a regional president for several years. So I recently retired, moved back to the farm, and built a shows. So that's where my wife and I live, and we're back on the home quarter.
Oh, that's great. And you're keeping busy in retirement, helping the state of North Dakota. Talk a little bit about this freshman, term for you, and also a little bit about what you brought here in the way of concerns from the constituents you heard from.
Well, after spending 41 years in the banking business and actually being active on the farm during that time too, I thought my background would be helpful, especially for some of the issues. I did get selected for the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee, which was good, and most of the banking issues that come through the legislature probably run through that committee, so that's been very helpful to have that background. And of course, on the Ag Committee, my B Committee, growing up on the farm and being active still in the farm, it's helpful to have that background.
What do you most enjoy about this process so far?
Well, right now I'm learning a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose, as you can about imagine as a freshman legislator, and the volume of information that we have to be able to consume every day, and then realize what the issues are and make sure that we try to do the right thing. So if you really want to work at this job, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think, too, a lot of people don't recognize the amount of time it takes. If you coming from the business world and the banking world, you're dealing day to day with things. You have board meetings and whatnot, but you're doing that all year long. Here you are cramming 80 days of that major decision-making and strategizing and future planning into 80 days every other year. It's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot, and right now we're rushing to get to crossover, and as you know, the volume of bills that we have in the House was tremendous this year. So we've got to, and in North Dakota, every bill gets a hearing and gets a vote on the floor. So it's a big responsibility, but one that I take very seriously.
What are the top priorities for you out of the session? What'll make this a success, your first term?
Well, I'm all about, and I campaigned on this, smaller government, less regulation. Let's make North Dakota business friendly. And I have a concern on private property rights, too, which, obviously that can be an issue in our state with a lot of the issues that are going on right now.
And what do you feel like your constituents sent you here to do? What's their top concern?
I think they sent me here to do just those things. We've got property tax reform on that we're working on. We've got we want to reduce regulation, and obviously we want to make North Dakota a good place to do business and to raise a family, and just your life in general. You want to be able to call North Dakota home and make it a great place.
What do you think ultimately will be the product on the property tax reform and relief side?
Well, right now there's proposals out there to, eventually eliminate taxes on property taxes on private residences. I'm not sure that's the fairest. It kind of leaves the agriculture out of the way, and commercial properties too. So, and in my opinion, I think everybody should have some skin in the game. So, we'll see what comes out of it. But so far, it's all been tied to primary residences.
What would you like to see from the ag side? What would make it more balanced in your view in that way?
I'd like to see a reduction in the amount of mills we're having to pay right now. A minimum of 60 mills, and it'd be nice to be maybe in that 30 mill range, and maybe have the state pick up more of the K-12 education to kind of reduce that. Like I said, it'd be nice to have everyone with a little bit of skin in the game in this case.
Yeah. Do you mean as far as the mill reduction specific to farmland?
Yeah, exactly. I just think I know Senator Weber's got some proposals out there, and we've been working on that. I'm part of the Ag Coalition here, and I'm also a rural coalition. Another issue I'd like to bring up is infrastructure in rural areas. We're having problems in our rural areas with bridges, township roads, you name it. We could use some help in that area.
I understand there's an effort to take the excise tax and dedicate it specifically for rural infrastructure. Is that still alive?
Yes, it is. I think it's a 3-cent tax. I don't like to raise taxes on anybody, but I can see the need for rural infrastructure is pretty big. And I know just in my home township, we've got bridges that are in tough shape and have been condemned, and now we got to drive several miles around just to get where you want to go.
Our Meet the Legislator segment's brought to our listeners by the North Dakota Petroleum Council and the Lignite Energy Council, obviously with Mercer County, part of your district, District 6, all the way up to what was some legendary oil and gas production up there years ago. You kind of touched both of those boxes. Talk a little bit about your views on the energy world right now.
Yeah, I co-sponsored a bill on oil production that's outside of the Bakken. Some of those formations that maybe aren't, you don't hear about as much, but maybe the Spearfish Formation up in northern Bottineau County, to lower the taxes on the first, I think it's 90,000 barrels or whatever, just to encourage more production in those areas. And we'll see what happens. Overall, it'll increase revenues to the state because we'll increase production on those and some of the legacy wells.
I think I heard that they're down to 12 active wells now outside of the Bakken in your area. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure about that, but
not enough, basically.
Yeah, not enough, and just north into Canada, into Manitoba and southeast Saskatchewan. I mean, they're using CO2 to enhance oil production up there.
Yeah, that's obviously a hot topic too, both for allowing the coal industry to battle on and wage battle against all the regulations they're up against, and obviously for enhanced oil recovery too. I know there's some, I can't remember if it's in your committee or another one related to the Industrial Commission asking for additional research dollars to move the timeline up for enhanced oil recovery. Have you seen that yet?
I have not seen that yet, but I've heard about it. So yeah, definitely, if carbon or CO2 is going to be shipped here, might as well make use of it as a commodity. But I don't like the eminent domain type things of the, private property rights is one of my issues too. So we've got to weigh that and make sure it's balanced.
Where is the, I think there were a number of proposals specific to eminent domain. Are those still active?
I think in the House, we killed a number of those type of bills here not too long ago. I supported the eminent domain, one of them, but the rest of them, I think, all went down.
And then I know there was some effort on behalf of the lignite industry in North Dakota to have some additional research dollars as well, and also they've been fighting a lot of battles in court and trying to get some additional funding that would help them basically win some of these legal battles. Do you hear much about that, Mercer County and that part of your district?
I haven't to this point. I'm going to have to do some more work and research on that in order to answer that question.
What else would you like to tell us? What other things are front burner for you right now?
Well, one thing, I'd sure like to get the crossover and get a day off. That would be good. And the weather to warm up, because when I'm traveling back and forth, it's been pretty chilly.
Yeah, Willow City to Bismarck's a little bit of a pull, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes me about 3 hours or a little over 3 hours to get back and forth. So.
And what kind of schedule do you keep when you're here?
Well, usually I'm up before 6, and I'm usually sometimes we have 7 o'clock meetings here. This morning I didn't get here till 7:30. Unfortunately, my pickup started, and because it was pretty darn cold this morning. And then now we've been so busy on the House side, we're having 2 floor sessions a day. So in just a few minutes, I'm going into our second one for the day, and usually it's 8, 9 o'clock before I can finally rest.
Yeah, there's not much rest for the weary here in the legislative session as we get to the halfway point. Really enjoyed chatting with you, and appreciate the time very much.
Well, thank you very much, Scott, and look forward to doing it again someday.